Poverty has already been decided. There is no retirement for you. How did you feel when you heard these shocking statements? You're probably wondering, on what basis can someone say that? But if you watch this video until the end, you'll understand why so many people spend their whole lives working, unable to retire, and end up facing old age and poverty. And you'll also gain an important clue that could change your future. The life stories of two people, Mr. Penny and Mr. Charlie. First, let's compare the lives of these two people. The main characters are Mr. Penny and Mr. Charlie. Penny is a diligent office worker. Every morning, he drives his newly bought SUV to work, and on his way, he always stops at Starbucks for coffee and a sandwich. At the office, he works busily from 9 in the morning until late at night, and on weekends, he goes in for extra shifts again. On payday, he dines at a nice restaurant with his partner and enjoys shopping as well. But all of this is paid for with credit cards, and what comes back are just credit card bills, car payments, maintenance fees, and rent notices. Mr. Penny doesn't know how to make money work for him, so when he stops, his income stops with him. On the other hand, Mr. Charlie, who lives in the same neighborhood, leads a completely different life. He doesn't need to rush to work in the morning. That's because while he was sleeping, his assets were already making money for him. He leisurely brews coffee at home while reading the financial newspaper, and during the day, he might stop by the library or ride bikes and spend time with his family. On his phone, he receives notifications of stock dividends and rental income from real estate. Even without working, he earns income every day, and all his time is completely his own. What's interesting is that Charlie and Penny didn't grow up in particularly different environments. The two of them went to the same elementary school as children and grew up in similar neighborhoods. Their parents' financial situations weren't all that different either. It was only over a long period of time that their lives changed. What was it that made their lives so drastically different? The reason lay in their habits of handling money. Mr. Charlie saved the allowance he received as a child. Even when he wanted snacks or ice cream, he held back and developed the habit of saving. By the time he entered college at 20, he invested the money he had saved in financial products like the S&P 500 and stocks of listed companies. By the time he graduated, he happened to check his account and experience firsthand how much his money had grown. This naturally helped him develop a sense for building wealth as he got a job and transitioned into adulthood. On the other hand, Mr. Penny had a habit of spending money as soon as he received it ever since he was young. Buying the latest game consoles, designer shoes, and overspending on nights out with friends every weekend was just a normal part of his life. To him, money was simply something that disappeared once it was spent. As a student, he didn't have much money, so his spending and activities were limited, but once he got a job and started receiving a regular monthly salary, he became addicted to it. He even ended up getting several credit cards and became a slave to installment payments, spending money he wouldn't earn until the next month or even the month after that. For him, his salary was nothing more than a means to pay off last month's bills. It wasn't a way to save up a lump sum or a stepping stone for financial advancement. In their 20s or early adulthood, when they first entered society, these differences didn't stand out much. But over time, as these financial habits accumulated and compounded like interest, they eventually drove a wedge between the two people's lives. How is poverty created? There are many factors that contribute to poverty, but their common characteristics can be summarized as follows. Differences in spending habits, the trap of inflation, and the double-edged nature of compound interest. To put it even more simply, it's because you spend more than you earn, so over time the value of your money melts away, and the cycle of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer repeats itself through habits. Spending habits. If you spend more than you earn, you can never become wealthy. For example, let's say you buy a Starbucks coffee every morning. At $4 a cup, that's over $1,460 a year. On the other hand, if you make instant coffee at home, it costs less than $200 a year. The simple difference of 1 cup of coffee can add up to more than 10 times the cost. I'm just using morning coffee as a light example. As we go through each day and live our long lives, we make countless choices and spend money in ways we can't even keep track of. Bags, clothes, wallets, cars, travel, hotels, smartphones, so many consumer goods feel like hungry lions with their eyes fixed on snatching away our paychecks. The trap of inflation. Do you think your money is safe if you just save it? Actually, that's not the case. 30 years ago, a Big Mac cost $3, but now it's $6, and in the future, it could be over $12. Prices keep rising, but the value of cash keeps shrinking. Even if the bank interest rate is 2% per year, if the inflation rate is 4%, the value of your money decreases by 2% every year. That means even if you save $100,000, in 10 years its real value will only be $80,000. In the end, holding on to cash is like watching ice melt away. The double-edged nature of compound interest. Compound interest is the most powerful force for growing your assets. But on the flip side, it works the same way for debt and overspending. Credit card interest, installment payments, and debt will snowball over time and tighten their grip on your life. In the end, whether you repeat good habits or bad habits determines the difficulty level of your life. The power of compound interest and stock investing. So, how can you make compound interest work in your favor? Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. If you look at the data from the past 10 years, the answer is clear. If you had invested $10,000 at the beginning, the results after 100 years would look like this. If you had invested in the S&P 500, you would have about $1.3 billion. If you had invested in U.S. Treasury bonds, about $8.2 million. If you had invested in gold or real estate, about $5 million. And if you had simply saved the money, it would be about $2 million. The difference is overwhelming. The U.S. stock market has gone through countless crises like the Great Depression, the IT bubble, the financial crisis, and the pandemic, but in the long run, it has always trended upward. In the short term, the market fluctuates, but in the long term, it has always risen in line with economic growth and corporate profits. So the answer is simple. Value investing, long-term investing, and investment habits. Value investing means analyzing a company's intrinsic value and buying when it's undervalued. Long-term investing means looking at things over decades. Investment habits mean consistently setting aside a fixed amount every month. These three things are how you make compound interest work for you. Wealth and poverty aren't determined by fate, but by habits. Controlling your spending habits, investing in assets that can beat inflation, and making use of compound interest. These three things are the keys to financial freedom. Here at HOLDWISE, we plan to consistently produce reports on companies, analysis, and long-term investment strategies. Buy shares of high-growth companies at reasonable prices, hold them for the long term, and maximize compound returns. This is HOLDWISE investment philosophy. If today's video sparked even a small change in your thinking, that's the beginning. Join us by subscribing and liking, and you can find the report materials for this video in the comments and links below. In the next video, we'll introduce real company analyses and investment ideas. Thank you.